Welcome to the Health Insurance Marketplace. To help us direct your call, please select one of the following. Okay, I'll get you to a representative.
Thank you for calling Marketplace. My name is Kelly Johnson. How may I assist you?
Hi, with whom do I have the pleasure?
Kelly.
Kelly, hi Kelly. Kelly, this is Jesus Bustillos. I have some questions on the estimates. I'm an agent. Can I get to Tier 2 support, please?
Yes, give me 1 second.
Thanks.
Thank you for calling the Marketplace. This is Jessie Cole.
So I'm an agent, and I'm calling regarding, well, I guess just clarification and questions, really. So we've been doing this with the Marketplace now since it started, since it opened. And you're Tier 2 support, yes?
Correct.
Cool. All right. So my question is really clarification on the estimate. So I don't know. Again, I know you could provide me limited help, but to the extent that you can provide me some answers or some help, that would be great. So I guess the first question is, we have some customers that are. Well, let me back up. We do taxes. I'm also a registered tax preparer besides being a licensed insurance agent. And so we read the instructions on Form 8962. We've been doing people's taxes on this for some time, and so we've seen both sides of how this works. Like on the front end, when people do the estimate at the beginning of the year, or I should say at the end of the year for the following year, and then when it comes full circle at the end of the year, people are doing their tax return, right, and we're doing their reconciliations and such. And to be frank, and all the people that we've worked with, and all the couple thousand members that we serve every year, we haven't ever had an issue. We haven't ever had anybody call into question how we're doing things or any of that. We've had smooth sailing, pretty good reviews, etc. But it still lingers. There's questions that people have, and so I'm calling with some of those questions. And the questions that linger are things that deal with the estimate. So here's a couple of the questions. I guess the first question is, how we're supposed to estimate income, right? Okay.
Yes.
So some people have varying definitions of what that means, and I know you guys put the instructions on the website, including the whole separate page for people to learn how to estimate and some ranges, right? I mean all of that. But ultimately, from my estimation, and I'm saying this with as openly as possible, you've got people, let's say that they're making whatever they're making as a W-2 employee, right? Let's just take that scenario to start with, a W-2 person, not working for themselves, just working for someone else as a W-2, not making any 1099 income, right? Not doing anything self-employed, just a W-2, not putting any money away for income, for retirement, not doing anything that would modify their deductions, just a W-2 with kind of a very basic situation, right? So let's just say that person during the pandemic figured out that the company he was working for, the owner lost his life because of the COVID, and his job just wasn't as stable as he thought it was, right? Worked for a decent-sized company, but everything shifted when it happened with the pandemic. So now he's working for somebody else, and he's making an average of like $20 an hour, right? But he has this anxiety about not knowing really until the end of the year, truly, what his income is going to be, even though he's a W-2 employee. So he could estimate, 40,000, 20 times 40 times 52 and kind of round down. He could do that. Right. That would be allowed. He could also pick any number above the poverty line level minimum for one person, and then just reconcile his taxes at the end of the year and pay his fair share at the end of the year. That's another way of somebody to do it. For them to estimate as low as they can, and then again they pay up at the end of the year. And then there's somebody that might want to go somewhere in the middle, right? Like just because they're a little nervous and they don't know, and they're just a little intimidated about the whole thing, and so instead of putting 40,000 and instead of putting 16,000 or something, they put 27,000, right?
Right.
You've been doing this with the Marketplace for a little while?
A little bit, yes.
Okay, so you've seen
back more than what he actually reports he's going to owe.
Right. At the end of the year, he'll still reconcile, right? Because let's just say, again, he puts 27. His wages are $20 an hour, but again, he's not sure. He's got an insecurity. It's a mental thing, right? It's an emotional thing. It's a trauma thing. Whatever we want to call it, he's just feeling that it's not a guarantee. I mean, and technically, he's correct. I mean, nobody knows what their income is going to be till the end of the year.
Right.
So in each of those three scenarios, the person that estimates kind of high, right, using gross wages, just doesn't even do any of the other. Maybe the person doesn't know to include, changes that they have upcoming, like plans. Like maybe this person's going to, get married, and they just don't figure that in. They could figure it in, but they just don't figure it in, right? They just decide not to.
Yeah, because on our end, it says to figure in like change of employment, bonus, raises, anything during the year that you think you might be, like any kind of life changes. And
right, and I was going with
that option to update it so much. Every time you feel like the income's not going to be the same, they always have that option to report a life change and update.
Right, just so that they won't owe so much at the end of the year in case they end up owing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, or they can opt to use less of what they're allotted. Like if they're allotted $1,000 and they're worried that number, or they don't want to pay back, they could use some of that tax credit instead of using all of it. That's another way of not paying back at the end of the year.
Right. Now, in the scenarios that I gave you, the first one being somebody estimates kind of just not knowing how it works. They just estimate just gross income, right? Scenario one. Scenario two, someone estimates somewhere in the middle just because they're not sure, but, they just kind of want to estimate somewhere in the middle. That's just the way they want to do it. And then the other example, the more conservative example, somebody estimates as low as they can. right? Near the federal poverty level, because they have again that level of insecurity. They're just they worked for a company, something's happened, they saw that a full-time employment doesn't necessarily mean guaranteed work until the end of the year, so they feel more comfortable putting a lower number, and they're fully aware. They understand that they may pay back a couple $1,000 at the end of the year, or whatever might be due to them based on the repayment limitations, right? They're based on Form 8962. So they're aware of that, right? They're completely aware of that. In all three of those scenarios, we could say that the person is technically doing it right, correct?
Right.
Because it is subjective. The estimate is subjective to people's awareness, understanding, their plans, how much of it they want to figure in, how conservative, how generous they want to be with their estimates. I mean, is it fair to characterize it that way?
Well, you would think not. But, I personally wouldn't know what my income would look like for the next year unless I done it like the first person and just done the, so much an hour times 40 hours a week. That's my best way of gets the best estimates. But then again, I know there's people that have self-employment, their income, realtors, that stuff, It's just, I would just recommend updating that application as much as possible to make sure you're not overusing. And then maybe if you need to, I would use less than what you're qualified for. That way you don't owe back.
Right. Now, at the end of the year, if somebody does owe back and they're aware of it and it's, they're even calculating for it, they're figuring it in just in case, they're, preparing for it. Again, people, I don't know how to phrase this, right? I'm just trying to cover all bases here, but like the IRS, because I've had this conversation with people over the phone with the IRS as well. The IRS is very well aware that even if you're a W-2 employee, there isn't a guarantee of income anywhere. So nobody can say just because you're a W-2 employee, well, you have to use $40,000. You have to, because no one knows in your own life what changes may occur, what changes you may want to implement, whatever. I mean, maybe you get fired, maybe the company isn't around anymore, maybe you pass away. I mean, whatever. All of those, everything's unwritten until it's written. And then at the end of the year, when people actually get to the end of the year and then they know how they're going to do their taxes and they know what their adjusted gross income is going to be and they're modified adjusted gross income, then they pay their fair share. If a person is completely aware, right, that they're going to pay up at the end of the year and they truly have that understanding about their estimate that, they don't have a guarantee of income. Again, you've seen those three different scenarios, I'm sure. Again, you mentioned that they would all technically be correct, though they might have different amounts to repay at the end of the year. It's all based on the final AGI. Correct. And that's really the ultimate reason why. Well,
based off everything they put on that application, that's how they get that number. It's based off everything you've listed on that application. So based off of what that application says, is how they calculate your tax credit and whatever the price is for the second lowest price plan in your area. That's how they base it. Now, if they're okay with saying they make more than what they do, personally, I like to think nobody would put more down than what they would. I personally wouldn't want to report more than what I actually could because I wouldn't want to owe back. But what was you saying?
Well, and the reason why this becomes a bigger question, because I understand what you're saying, some people just prefer not to owe anything at the end of the year. But the reason this becomes a bigger question, I don't know, can you pull something up on the marketplace while I've got you on the phone so you can see what I'm talking about, see if you see what I'm seeing?
Like, what do you mean? Pull what up?
Well, let's just say you're going to give someone a quote, right? That if you want to pull up the marketplace, just like if you're going to enroll somebody or give them a quote or whatever, and pull up my zip code, 79902. Here's where I'm going. And just give me your feedback. Just all I'm looking for is your feedback. So let's just say someone, I'm sitting down, again, I'm the agent, we're going through this application process, we put in 79902, and this person is working as
79902?
79902, yes ma'am. So it's just one of the El Paso, Texas County zip codes, yes ma'am. So this person, let's just, to make this simple, this person is single, okay, just we'll make it easy. And let's just say that they're making $15 an hour, as their hourly wage, and, again, as far as he's concerned, he's hoping to be with that company the whole year, but, life is life, so he doesn't have a guarantee, but he's thinking he's going to be there the whole year. So he's got the choice of using, again, an estimate under the federal poverty level if nobody explains to him how this works, right? He could choose to use a number that's underneath the numbers and then he won't get any help. He could choose to use a number that's right above that number, which would be available to him as an estimate because he may very well, in fact, not know what his final income is going to be and he wants to play it really, 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 really safe. Or he might go a little more with gross wages, right? 15 times 40 times 52 weeks, 31,200. So here's what I want to ask you if you would be so kind as to doing. If the person in that scenario, let's say that the person is 30, just to give you a number, and male. Person is 30 and male, single, right? Puts down 30,000 as the estimate, or 31,200 as the income estimate. You notice that
are they eligible for coverage, for other coverage, legal parent, no. Tobacco user, none of that?
No, ma'am. non-tobacco. Yes, ma'am.
And what did you say the income would be?
Let's just say he's looking at numbers and he thinks let me see what it looks like at 32. So he puts down 32,000. So we put in 32,000, right? So we hit view plans, and then we see that the plans are whatever they are. They start at whatever the premium is. It's probably a bronze plan. The first one is probably a bronze plan. And so at that level of income, at that estimate, he may not be getting any cost sharing reductions, or he may be getting very, very little. But
he might get a tax credit of $281. That's
all right. So
but he could be eligible for $281 a month. He could be.
Right. So if you look at the plans now, you see that the plans have the deductibles and the co-insurance, right? The maximum on the right side there. What's the first one that comes up?
The estimated yearly cost. Well, the first plan to come up is an Aetna CVS Health. It's a bronze
plan. Okay. And what's the out-of-pocket maximum for the year?
$9,000.
All right. So if the person wants to go that route, totally cool. They're using $31,000. It's a little high in my estimation because of the way we do taxes and how we help people with this, But again, it's an allowable estimate. He's estimating his income. Estimate means to guess, right? And he's using that number. It's his choice. So he goes with $31,000. At the end of the year, he pays nothing back. Cool. Everything's cool. He actually gets to 31, 32, whatever, 30,000. Maybe they give him a little bit back, whatever. Okay. But during the year, if he used that plan, his out-of-pocket was huge, right? 9,000, whatever. Okay.
Correct.
We're on the same page so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now let's say we show him a second option, and we say, well, look, you could, if you wanted to, estimate your income lower, because based on what you were telling me, sometimes the hours change, or based on what you were telling me, sometimes you don't feel like, maybe that job is going to be permanent for you. You're thinking maybe you want to go somewhere else, or maybe you're going to go back to school. Maybe he has changes he's thinking about, whatever. He just decides maybe a different estimate is more practical. So he decides that he wants to look at, well, what would it be if I quit my job for 3 months and, maybe went back to school, and my income wasn't the 31, but I estimated it closer to 20, right?
Uh-huh.
So if you put in 20, and then you hit view plans,
his tax credit would go up, and it'd be $372.
Right, and the first plan that comes up on the list is Aetna?
Aetna, yep.
Silver?
Yes.
Okay, and this is for 2023, right? December?
This is for 2024.
Okay, that's fine. So let's just pretend he saw that plan. What is the out-of-pocket on that plan for the year?
$1,700.
Okay, so let's pretend that he says, well, I like this one. I'm going to go with the 20,000 estimate. And I say, okay, well, listen, that's not a problem. I mean, you can do that. It's your estimate, right? At the end of the year, just remember, you may very well have to pay back some money, because it seems, based on your income, based on your current wages, if everything stays the same and you don't make any changes, at the end of the year, you may end up making 31.2, in which case, based on the 8962 repayment limitations, you would be on whatever the threshold tier is, and, you'd have whatever this repayment is. It might be the 325 or whatever that amount is on the table, right? And he says, well, that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'll plan for that. I'll figure that in. I'll figure that into my budget, right? So he figures in, based on the 31.2 that he might end up making, that he's going to be at, what would it be, 200% of the federal poverty level, right? So whatever the repayment amount is at that amount, I think it's 325. So he figures in 325, right? Now, if he adds together the 325, and let's just say he gets through the end of the year, we're now talking about 2024, we're doing his taxes, he ended up making, I don't know, 26 or something, right? We do his tax return, he ends up having to have a little adjustment back, and the adjustment is, I don't know, $250 or something, right? Now, had he used the plan, his out-of-pocket went from whatever thousand to 1,700, right? So his out-of-pocket had drastically reduced with the second estimate. So here's my question. That's how we normally advise for people to do this. And the reason why people many times will do it, not everybody, but most people do take a more conservative estimate, is because in many cases, depending on the person, obviously, but they don't know what their income's going to be. They might have changes. They might have their kids are going to college. They have vacations planned. They're going to quit that job. They're going to go back to school. But none of those scenarios that I gave you are wrong, quote unquote wrong, correct? They're all just different scenarios that people can choose. At the end of the year, they just have to repay their fair share.
Correct.
Okay. Well, you have given me a lot of clarity.
I don't get to see much of it on the tax side of it.
Yeah. But you see the difference in the out-of-pocket, right? When somebody...
It's the first time I've really seen that brought to my attention. But I do... I've always wondered why these numbers are so different, but, technically not one of them scenarios would be wrong, because like you said, it is your best guesstimate for the year.
Well, can I give you my number? I know you probably already have it. I'm up on your screen somewhere, but if you could just take this to leadership, maybe they can post something online to just give agents more clarity, more understanding, more awareness, and consumers, because I'll tell you what, the tax community is still way behind, and agents, like me, unless they do taxes, girl, they're way behind. They're not giving people more information. They're giving people less information, and when people get less information, their decisions are narrower. They lose options.
I know it.
And if a person had a choice from one estimate to the other, the way we just did it on the phone, most people would take the lower estimate, and they'd be okay. They're not doing anything wrong. At the end of the year, they might pay their fair share back if they made more money, but that's the way it's set up. It's in the code that way.
Yeah, because 1,700 is a lot more reachable than 9,000.
Well, you've made all the sense in the world. I appreciate your help. Could you do that favor for me? I don't know if that's too much to ask. Could you just bring this up to somebody in leadership? Example. Yeah.
Okay. Let me submit.
Yeah, and then if there's any feedback on it, I mean, you've got my number. If there's any courses or training, or I know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I do taxes, but I just wanted to get clarification because sometimes when people call up to the marketplace, they don't know that the marketplace employees are not insurance agents. They don't know that they're not tax trained. That they're doing their best to read from a screen. So they ask them questions, and sometimes
it's so confusing because I wish we knew that about the tax portion of it, how it would pan out at the end of it. We don't know that much on our end. They tell us to refer to a tax professional. That's
right.
In.
Right. And that's a big field. The whole tax question becomes a really big field. So then, again, that's just another place for people to get a little bit lost. But from everything that I explained to you and everything you've been trained on through the marketplace, from your leadership, again, it's all kosher. As long as people understand at the end of the year they might have a repayment, then everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
So, again, if you could take that up here. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm putting that in right now, trying to put some words in here about how everything you said.
Awesome. Well, you have yourself a beautiful afternoon, my friend, and I look forward to hopefully a response back from leadership. Thank you so much.
Yes, no problem. You have a great day, and thank you for calling the marketplace.
All right, bye-bye.